Well, hello everybody to another episode of our Rude Awakening podcast. I don't know about you guys, but it's been a week for me. And I know, Sandra, for you, it's been a week ago. So I think aptly we're naming this one "Confessions of a Control Freak." And who are we referring to? Well, first and foremost, ourselves.
Well, hi, Jonathan. Hi to your confession.
It's been 30 days since my last confessions. Actually, it's been a week, but for dramatic purposes.
And who do you confess to? Once you've reached a certain amount of self-freedom, who do you confess to?
Yeah, you can't blame God anymore, so I guess it's me in the mirror, which
And
doesn't
who are you
always work.
controlling?
Shit.
Well, we're going to unpack this today. Welcome to our show this week. I'm Sandra Roggermann here with my co-host, Jonathan Cray. And usually we talk about a quote from Rude Awakening from the documentary itself. But today, given these past weeks, we thought it might be time to disrupt this beautiful pattern again and talk about the one big elephant in the room on the journey of self-discovery, and it's control and how much we're actually not in control. So Jonathan and I have had beautiful conversations, and we wanted to make you our witness.
Yeah, and it's interesting when you get to a certain point in your own journey where there's less drama, more balance, more self-reflection, and hopefully some more knowingness, or the knowingness that it is you that unlocks the knowingness at least. I found myself getting a lot of times getting impatient on where is that idea that I had of the spiritual perfection, or where's that idea about abundance, or where's that idea about as I always aptly say, like rainbows shooting out of my ass and everything going perfect. And then I have to deal with my human, and that's still such an area that makes me crazy, even though we made a movie about it, and we talk about it a lot, and we're supposed to know about it a lot, but it drives me nuts sometimes.
Was it a prerequisite to know anything?
The more I get into this, the less I'm actually happy to say I don't know shit. So no, it isn't a prerequisite, and we talked about this before we started the podcast. Is do you need to feel perfect, or do you need to know everything to keep going, to make a different move or a different choice?
I mean, the whole subject matter of control is we're born into this world and we're told that, that we need to have a certain amount of self-control. We need to control our finances. We need to control what our kids are doing. We need to control what we say, where and when. So it's this constant feeling of the false idea of being in charge. And I think that's really why people like to practice being in control or want to be more in control. And then that's so tightly connected to power. When really, the one thing in my early awakening years, as I sort of dipped my toe into spirituality and meditation and all of that, you're being told to let go. And then you just, I was just trying to control my life, and, now you're telling me to let go. But then I think one of my first spiritual teachers said, so your heart is beating and you're breathing, right? Yeah. Are you controlling that? Well, no, not really. It's kind of on autopilot. It's doing its thing. And maybe there's a certain intelligence within me that is running the show. So those were my first pointers towards, well, I can release a little bit of control. And, being German, being in Aries.
We all know that one.
Exactly. It's a certain
challenging.
It's a certain challenge but also it's a certain quality, I think, that we're known for in this world, being very German, very reliable. So I need to be very much in control in order to be reliable, right? So what happens when you let that concept go and the whole identity that's tied to it?
Yeah, and if you let that go, if you let those things go, what happens? I think we all love to say. I certainly did. Oh yeah, I just need to let go. I just need to trust. I need to leave my human. Just don't meddle with process, and your soul has got it. But ultimately, I'm not living in the house of the soul. I'm living in the house of the human, and bringing the soul in rather than the other way around. So I found that my human hated change. Letting go felt more like giving up, and it puts a lot of side effects on that. Like if I give up, then everything goes to shit. I might die. I might get judged or killed or any doom scenario like that. And it was really weird how, yes, I knew this for years now, to let go and to not have the human interfere. But the moment I don't give the human the space to at least cry wolf or say out loud, this is really shitty, it will just slowly poison the well again. So there is a almost almost like a dance between the two, getting the human out of the, hearing the human, but getting it out of the way in such, just enough for it to allow for the other stuff to come in, and for really, uh, you know, to really let your life be changed deeply instead of like by really small increments.
Because really, I mean, also nature. If we're a product of nature, but then with consciousness and with a soul, nature knows how to do its rhythms. Nature knows when to release and when to bloom and when to, when to let go of the leaves that are no longer needed in order to, come back to such a deep core to then start blooming and springing forth again. So there's a certain rhythm that's inherent in all of us as natural and earthly beings. And yet we as human beings don't trust it. For us, it's not enough. Or we were raised in a belief that it's not enough. Now, letting go of that belief, letting go of that compulsive behavior that is so normal out there, it feels very counterintuitive. And I think at some point we have to make a podcast about counterintuitivity.
Yeah.
Because this whole journey of self-discovery is a journey that feels very counterintuitive.
What is the last thing you would do, and now go do that? That's basically what you're asking yourself.
So even functioning in normal everyday life, when you're not even aware of introducing control, it's so the autopilot that we're all running on that we don't even question it. And I think preparing for this show now, I thought, well, I thought I was in control when my human was functioning and when my human was very productive in this world. So, I went to work, I earned my money, got my paycheck, paid my bills. Then I was very reliable as a friend, making appointments, showing up with friends and all of that. And all of that is run by, I have to do it. Well, hopefully you like what you do. You like your job. Hopefully you like your friends and your family, the people you live with and you love.
But there's a requirement.
But there's almost a requirement that you're in control to arrange those things and to keep that control going. And I found once I started listening to my inner rhythm, to my inner seasons of letting go and, retrieving and coming back to myself, it felt like a lot of the things that I thought I needed to do didn't fit me anymore. So now all of a sudden, okay, so I said I'd be doing this, I'd be going there, I'd be visiting my friend, I'd be, out in the world, made appointments for it. My agenda is full. But really, if I'm honest, it doesn't really feel like I want to be doing it. And I'd rather be by myself because I feel there's something happening that I want to listen to. And then letting go of almost of the rule #1 to be a functioning member of society and take back all of your promises to society and listen to yourself, that was my first big step into the self-awareness and really playing with who am I actually. Because if I don't give that the space, if I keep controlling what I'm allowed to do, what I'm not allowed to do, then I'll never really tap into that true wisdom that's always there.
Yeah. But then again, like when you start, not adhering to society, not doing what, people expect from you. I mean, what was the first thing that you noticed in the reaction of other people when you started doing that?
Well, not in those exact words, but how dare you? Like, how dare you? And you're not reliable anymore. You're not loyal. You're not, I can't use you as my safety, Sandra. If you pull away, if I don't know, if I can't count on you, then I might have to start questioning my own patterns.
Yeah, so it's almost like breaking your own status quo. Break also kind of breaks it for the people around you, because I think we're all playing with the same dynamics with each other, and once one chain breaks, whatever's in your vicinity will break with it, or it will find a different resolution. But yeah, I found the same thing. All of a sudden you're unreliable, or you're difficult, or you don't respond well. Well, all you're doing is saying, oh, this is better for me to be alone for a while. Or
Yeah, and then you're selfish, and
yeah,
you.
I did find for myself, I did find the difference between that process being extremely excruciating and more balanced now is the communication.
Yeah.
Is now I really, for the most part, don't care what people think about me, which me has been a very recent development. Um, and the people I do care about, I'm very good usually to say what I need and what I want, and not be dependent on their, they can disagree with me or even get angry, but I don't base it on what I'm supposed to be anymore. And still, it's sometimes hard. Still, it feels like I'm disappointing them, or letting them down. So it's so deeply ingrained, that level of what you're supposed to do, and the control, or I guess the behavior that you've programmed yourself with, and you really still believe, even as far in the process as we've come. There's still daily that I figure out, like, Jesus, that's not mine. I just took that over. Or yeah, you need to be reliable. You need to keep your word. If you say something, you gotta follow through. Who said that? I, at a certain point, decided that was true, because that's what my idea of a good human being was. But that's my idea. And I think what we're entering now is a space where you get to define it all. And we talked about it in the kitchen just an hour ago. The amount of responsibility of that, of deciding really what you believe is true yourself without any outside influence.
And I think, we've made such a habit of keeping ourselves constantly busy, constantly occupying ourselves with beliefs, with control, with structure, with society's expectations, that we don't hear anymore what the true nature really, how it wants to flow, and how reliable actually that can be. Because even if I go out of connection with my social circle, at some point I will want to reconnect, because that's just the nature of my human being. We are community-based beings. So, but allowing for the natural structure to come forth, I need to let go of the controlled structure and belief. And I was actually looking up the word control and its origins, and it comes from checking and basically just controlling maybe finances, checking if it's right, checking a double checking system if things are proper. So it was never meant to be the one rule connected,
Absolute.
the one absolute truth. it was always just checking in with, is this still right?
Yeah, like a safety check.
And if I use it like that, if it's like a safety check, if it's like a checking in, then self-control all of the sudden makes much more sense to me. Then, if I'm in self-control, then I'm actually checking in with my true self. Oh, are we still in balance here? Is this still coming from a place of natural flow and understanding, or am I going against my human nature?
Instead of controlling yourself from all the outside ideas or letting it all completely go and saying, oh, it's in God's hands. It's almost like a middle ground.
Yeah, but maybe you need to have a certain understanding of self first, or of the God within first, in order to let go, let God. It's that,
Yeah.
okay, who do I give up to? And I think you were also smoking, right, when you were younger.
Yeah.
So when you're a smoker and when you force yourself to quit smoking, when you force yourself to take control of your life,
Yeah.
is this sustainable? Is this something that works? Diets, maybe going to the gym, like when you
It
force
worked. It worked
yourself.
for a long time until I basically lost the motivation to keep it going. Or when I discovered with the gym, for instance, that a lot of it is self-imposed control.
Yeah.
A lot of it is based on I'm not good enough. I need to become better. So it was lack, fear, and comparison based, which after making the movie and being really really tired of this journey altogether, like I didn't have the time or the stamina for. So it's kind of by method of deduction that I came to like I can't go into the old cleaning myself, changing myself, bettering myself in the old way because it just literally gave me allergies. Like it just like I can't even
So as long as,
stand the word self improvement
yeah,
anymore.
so
But that doesn't mean I can't self improve. But now it has to come from a completely different space, or I just run.
because it usually comes with rules and with society or your outside connections or the interactions that you're having, and that could be like you're extremely adhering to the social society, or you're still a good member of society, or you exchange it for a spiritual community, but it's still the same thing, right? There's still the control and rules in there until you realize, okay, there is something within me that maybe feels more natural and more true, and then it's sustainable. Like I found that with weight, for example, because as long as I try to control my weight, it's like it's like sifting sand in the sea. It's not really
But
doing
that's I think
anything.
that's an interesting point, and I'll have an example of my own. But like, how did that work with the weight? Because letting it completely slide, letting it go, also didn't work because you
No.
gained a lot of weight. So that feels like giving up. That
Are
feels
you
like
judging me now?
I'll give my own example later. But it's so it's not the giving up part either,
But
because you feel really shitty when you do. So
no,
what is the middle ground?
that's a huge insight. Now, again, it's like, dear listener, you're now witness to the bright aha moments that we're having when we talk
We
with
should
each
have a
other.
sample going like,
Yeah, exactly.
ooh.
It's like press the button. Ooh. Um, yeah, in the example of weight, this is just something that's very ingrained in my personal experience. You try to control it, somehow succeeding, somehow not. But it is something you can measure. Again, we're coming back to measurements, and it's very simple to control a weight because there's a number, and there's a certain amount of calories, or there's a certain
And,
food that I
there's a
should eat.
behavior that you can
There's a certain
change.
behavior, right? And then so I can force myself into the form and the look and the whatever I believe I should weigh or look like. Then I will feel, okay, I've succeeded, I've had an accomplishment that's directly acknowledged by my outside world. It's very measurable. It's very like, oh, wow, you look amazing. All of a sudden, that's good. The other one wasn't. So, okay, basically you're saying I looked like shit before. Okay. But I feel better now because now I
Enforcing
look
the
great.
idea of where you come from was bad.
It's also reinforcing that that was the right thing to do. And yet I might not have really truly listened to the natural flow that brings me to the real solution that will be maintainable and sustainable. But letting that go, like you say, it just means like you're going like, well, I've deserved the cake now, and I now, like I have the bottle of wine each evening and the chips and the pizza, and well, fuck it. And and then say, okay, but my true self will fix this and will figure this out. No, because again, you're not truly allowing the natural voice to take over. It's again believing that there is either or. And the same thing with smoking. As long as I thought I had to quit smoking because it was a bad thing or a good thing, or, like all of those things, you just come back to a forced state that doesn't feel normal and good. And then you can say it. But when there's a moment when you feel like, okay, now it's the time, I don't know, something just feels like, okay, now I have to quit. And then you don't even finish the pack of cigarettes. You just go like, okay, I'm just going to chuck it because this feels like the right time for me to do it. Then it comes from a differently informed place. But what's your example?
Um, well, I can't remember now. There's so many reactions to this thing. What was my example? Yeah, basically my example the last couple of weeks, and I had a little bit of a hard week last week, where my human was trying so hard to distract myself, but I knew I was distracting myself, and then I was like, I need to meditate, and I need to do this, and I need to have a pattern. I need to take time to really feel into things because I do have the knowingness. So it's not that I have to search for it, I have to earn it, or that I'm not there. But I just was. It was almost like I was doing it on purpose, not to feel. But there was so much judgment around feeling or not feeling, distracting or not distracting. And sometimes it's great to distract because my mind was just, running, going absolutely bonkers, and then entertaining that a little bit longer. It's like, well, do something, do something else until you feel it's the right time to be quiet. But don't sit there and basically constantly judge yourself for having thoughts you can't turn off. And that went on and on and on. And I kept, I think, in a sort of guilt trip to myself. I should be doing something, but I can't and I won't. Oh, but you're bad. You should be doing something. And then the more I said that to myself, the less I was doing it. But the more guilty I was getting. Yeah, but you made this movie. You should know by now. And what the fuck is happening? And ultimately, really getting to the point where I was so mad at my human aspect and my soul, because I can feel them both. I can feel the God within and the wisdom and the divinity, and I can feel the human. But I can't get them to play nice. I can't get these fuckers to have a dialogue that's anywhere near constructive. And after all the work, of course, the human then goes into big lamenting mode. Oh my God, I've been at this for 40 years, and 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 it's still, there's a lot of balance in my life. There's a lot less drama, almost no drama in my life. But that one thing that, synchronicity and flow and, anything I want that comes from that, clean and beautiful space manifests instantly isn't here yet. And I'm frustrated. I'm tired. I'm mega impatient. And so that really came to, we talked about it, but that really came to a whole like, motherfucker, I know all the theory, I know all the roads, I know all the roadmaps, all the shortcuts. Truly, because I'm a tenacious fucker that needs to go down the same street like 15 times to know it's the same street. And it's still not working, right? And I think this is probably what a lot of listeners also might experience is like, okay, you reach ground zero, there's nothing more to learn. Where's life in paradise? And it's a deep, deep, deep impatience. But like with the weight, it's starting to become really clear that all the blocks of guilt and what I'm supposed to do, but again, what I'm supposed to do is my spiritual idea. again, it's the pot of gold on the mountain, or all the yogi videos I watched throughout my life. That that's what that paradise looks like. And I've come to realize it's nothing like it. But my mind still's fixated on, I need to stop this and I need to reach that.
Well,
And
it's
both is two
exchanging one
sides
for
of
the
the
other.
same coin.
Yeah, it's exchanging one for the other. And I feel, especially with thoughts, since thoughts are something that aren't very controllable, it's not as straightforward as quitting smoking or losing weight or whatever,
I
right?
think it's the worst addiction I've ever had. It's just
Yeah.
overthinking shit.
Yeah, so the control, because that's also where the control starts and ends. That's it's the mind. So judging yourself for thinking and then forcing yourself into another way of thinking, it's either or. But we don't know if there's a scenario where we're not going to think. And then at some point, and just to share with the listeners that conversation that we had about it, like, fuck it, I'm so tired, I'm so done with it, like this constant 5 million radio stations in my head, and narrators and moderators, and
Everybody has an opinion.
like, how do I stop it, or how do I come to a place, because I know that anything that will be pleasant or will yield a pleasant result in my life comes from inspiration. So now I'm judging myself for not being inspired, because the mind is just too loud. So now I need to control my thoughts again until they're playing nice, and then I can feel inspiration, and then I can
So
you'll never
you
get
made
there.
another formula.
Yeah, well, you've entered another in between step into something that already holds the golden carrot quite a arm length
Yeah.
away from you.
And and it's interesting because we said it on the kitchen table before this episode. Last week I felt like I wasn't here. I had it for like 4 days where I felt like I was here physically, but my mind was, I was in another dimension. I was integrating something. I kind of also stopped trying to figure out what. I was just super vague. I didn't even dare to drive a car because I was so vague. But we sit down and you were like, can you do the episode? We sit down, we hit record, and bang. So, that isn't the prerequisite that I should be inspired and clear. And then this morning you had it.
Yeah.
And here we are having
I
a
slept
wonderful,
like shit.
clear conversation. So, what we think is a prerequisite for being good enough, being present, being able to activate that wisdom or that stream of consciousness. All of the ideas I had, kind of like we had with society and friends, and this is what you're supposed to do as a good human, are false. They're all false. Because I can sit here, half a coma with a cold and still make sense. As long as I just let it go and not make an idea what sense sounds like, or
Or
what I
hold,
need to say in a podcast.
like, hold very strong ideas of, it's almost like a clamp on your brain, like, okay, this part I have to remember to say this, like.
I can only do this if I'm
Yeah.
that, and I can only be this if I'm that.
And I'm really grateful that the only preparation that we do is we agree on a topic that we want to talk about, and then we let it unravel, and then we let the natural flow take its course and feel the inspiration of, just by going back and forth, rather than, okay, preparing this 10-point list that we each have in front of us and
And
saying,
we would kind of do the same thing, make something clever, try to adhere to that cleverness, but then I think the tone will be different, because then it's a mental construct of something that needs to just flow. And I think that's a great segue. Like and I read a lot of comments online, also people that have reached a certain milestone in their consciousness, in their awakening, or in their realization, even realization meaning a certain wisdom, a certain balance, a certain a knowingness that they're much more than this human. And they're going, where the fuck is it? And how the fuck do I apply it? Well, the world is still going, 80,000 miles an hour in the wrong direction in power and separation. here I am knowing all of this, and I don't get a prize. I don't get acknowledgement. It's not working.
But we're also not
Why the
applying
fuck would I?
ourselves.
Why the fuck would I keep doing this? And I had a couple of moments last week where I thought, well, fuck, if this is what it is like being completely present in this world, then why the fuck would I be here?
So, which brings up a really interesting point, like listening to you. So, all of the things that you do in the limited version of the human pre-awakening, you just adhere to rules, you use a certain amount of control and power in your own life in order to make things work, right? And then you go through this journey, you let go, you shed those layers, you understand that there's like this natural rhythm to you and you follow that most of the time. So that's all fantastic. But usually what happens when you're in society, when you're a functioning member, pretty unconscious, but functioning member in society, you get the acknowledgement and approval. So now you let go of everything. You know this feels right. You know that this is your true north. You're just really allowing yourself to go with it. Where's the approval and the acknowledgement, especially if it doesn't show up in my life? So, and that's really understanding now, listening to you, where are we applying ourselves with that clarity of natural flow? So, if I can communicate my natural flow and my truth in such a way that I don't need to use control or power or rules for myself, but if I can truly know my value and my worth and apply myself to life, life will reflect it. It's just that most of the time we're too, no, well, it's not even doubt, but you're too tired. You think it should be there in front of your nose. You said, I'm not going to get out of bed unless I feel this is working because I've worked
We
so
have an
hard for
agenda and
it.
a time frame.
So, how can it show up in this reality, in this earthly reality, if you're not applying it? If you're not applying yourself with
And
that
how do you apply
clarity?
it? How do you apply it, for instance? Like
Well, I show up and do this podcast with you, even though I feel I'm not really here. Um, Remember 2 days ago we were sitting having breakfast, and you say, "Wow, fuck, I'm so tired. I'm so, I don't know, pains, thoughts, all of this shit show. I just wish I was in an inspired place so I could call these people." And then we look at each other and we go, "Well, why don't we just call them now?" So I think it's still the idea that you need to be in a certain place in order to do something. But if you apply yourself in the clarity and truth and communication that you have here, even if the human is tired, even if I'm confused, even if there's thousand thoughts running through my head, how can I see proof of it if I don't go out and act it?
yeah, and it's really interesting because we talked about a lot about the and. So you have the human and the divine now somehow melding together, trying to play nice. But I'm gonna keep it really personal here. I always thought I have to get my human clean and out of the way, and before the divine can come in, and it's not true. My human can have an absolute fucking panic attack and be completely neuronic schizophrenic, and still the divine comes in. It's like we talked about this a lot. It's an autopilot. The moment you had your awakening, that process is pretty much happening. Your soul knows what's good for you, what you really need, also in this physical realm, and you can trust it or fight against it. So you can make it easy or hard, but it's kind of inevitable the moment you had your awakening. And I felt that, but still my idea of it, exactly, especially after you said this again, my idea is my human needs to be in a certain state before dot 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 fill in the
Well,
blank.
even to hear it, right? Because can I trust that not preparing myself, not tuning into it, that I open my mouth and the right things come out? There's still the doubt, there's still the fear that
How could it be
I'm
so
making it
simple?
up and it's way too simple. It should be more difficult, right? Because everything else leading up to this point was hard. So that's it's really interesting where
So it's belief. in a way. It's just
Which
believing
is,
it.
I saw something on Instagram the other day where I thought that's so true. Belief is completely unnecessary because if you know, you know.
Yeah.
And if you don't know and doubt, then you don't know. So what's the point of a belief?
Yeah, I read the same thing. It's like I think it was something like there's an inherent danger in
Yeah.
believing because believing will put another set of rules on the board instead of you know or you don't know. And if you don't know, it's either not relevant or you will know when the time is right. And so you know that even though you don't know.
So that's the trust. And I think like on that journey of self-mastery or, self-discovery, realization, whatever you want to call it, you learn to trust more and more and learn to lean into that self-trust more and more, that guidance of, say, for example, I wake up in the morning and somehow I just know today is not the day to go ahead with the plans that I've made for today. I just know this is not the time. And I can either force myself through it, and I think we've all done that, and then, get that result where you go in the evening, oh shit, I knew I shouldn't have.
And I love this example. So I had that a lot, and usually it's right, but sometimes it is my human idea that has a idea about this is how the state you should be in to do this and this and this, and then later I find out shit, I'm just postponing because I have this idea, not because I'm not ready. So there is like, how do you tell the difference?
So at this point, dear listener, if you haven't listened to our episode Procrastination, you should go back and listen to it now, because that's exactly what we talked about. Like, when is it procrastination and when is it truly an impulse to move or to not move? And again, something that I read or heard was really resonating with me. A true impulse or a true intuition will always feel it challenges you. It always tickles you, and you don't know the details, but you somehow know that's the direction you have to move in. If it's an idea or a fantasy that doesn't really come with a lot of dynamic, then yeah.
Well, I think I remember what we said now because I had to try to, like, for the life of me, like, what the fuck did we say in that episode? But like it's. I think the simple version was, if it's an inspired idea, you go ooh, and you might even consider doing it even though you feel not ready and you don't have a particular agenda or a way of knowing how to get there, but it feels exciting.
The details don't matter.
No, whether as if it's a mental thing or fear, it's small. There's a lot of details. There's a lot of things to overcome. There's a fear of change. It feels very small and cramped. The other idea feels massive, but you don't know how to get there. Well, at least there's a motivation to do it anyway. Well, the other one is like, no, I mean, I have to meet these criteria for even to move. So it's, does it flow or does it stagnate? Does it contract or is it expansive? That's kind of it.
And again, the only step to know any of this is to lean into your self connection. That's the one thing. Like, anybody starting this journey saying, like, yeah, I always had hunches, but I'm not willing to let go of control. Well, do it in the small ways. Do it in the small things that where you can sort of just test it out for yourself without your spouse divorcing you or your,
Yeah, it doesn't have to be so extreme.
no, it doesn't need to be extreme.
And then, for instance, like I started meditating again, like only recently, only after our after a couple of days, and just to sort of have a moment before I watch my news or my phone, to have a moment of connecting with me, really. And immediately, the first time I did it, there was this massive resistance to it. And I'm like, wow, I'm taking time for myself, to listen to myself, to not distract, and to get a good start of the day, right? But then I noticed, really funnily, the meditation itself, even though it's self-care, feels like, oh great, another chore, and I'm so done with chores or having to do anything really, that I'm kind of like, even things are good for me, I put in the same corner. Like, I don't want to do anything, any formula, any daily ritual, because I'm sick of the structure, I'm sick of the ritual. But then I sometimes confuse, oh wait a minute, but I can choose to do it or not. I can do it 5 minutes or half an hour. It doesn't really matter. I do it for me, not for the ritual. And then it's goes, oh shit, I can use a couple of those tools because I'm free now.
And you're
But my
using
mind
those.
still thinks it's in the old. So it's just like, oh shit. So it's kind of like looking in the toolbox, which in a lot of old cases have kind of narrowed me even further to go, well, what if I use this tool, but now with consciousness, knowingness, and freedom? Oh, it's a perfect tool as long as I don't let it get.
And you still eat.
Yeah,
You could also
exactly.
say, oh, another chore I have to do. I still have to eat. I still have to breathe. It's, I think it really comes with a freedom of allowing it to serve you rather than you serving it. So for me, meditation, it's definitely keeping me sane. I know if I don't have my morning connection with myself, this is checking in moment with me. And that could be different. That could be one day walking, and that could be one day sitting and drooling into my cup of coffee. It's the form doesn't matter as long as I check in with myself. And even I think after letting go a lot of control, a lot of things, it's probably good to replace with a new chosen structure to say for example, when I stopped smoking, I knew I need to replace it with something, or I need to save the money that I used to spend on cigarettes
To make it visible.
to then use it for myself for something else, for self-care, get my nails done or whatever, right? And that was a bridge that I was building for my human in order to make the change lasting. And I think, again, let's not neglect or deny the human, because the human still needs to stay in this world that is very much in this dualistic setup of good and bad.
And we've we've taken its one core job away of making sure we're safe and making sure we're safe through control and whatever control it thinks it has. And I think acknowledging that is a really good. I mean, ever since I was a little bit more, so half a year ago or a year ago, where I decided I'm going to be more gentle with myself because I'm so judgmental and guilty and this and that, and whatever my human says I'm going to just like, okay, I hear you. I might do something else, but I'm going to stop ignoring you. And that really helped. I mean, that took 80-90% of the things off. Now I notice when I'm in a really big transition or change, or there's a lot of stuff integrating, I'm, like I said, I stopped wondering what it is, because that just is more fuel for the brain to make any sort of ideas. I'm integrating, full stop. I'm dizzy, I'm integrating. I can't think straight, I'm integrating, whatever. And then do something else, distract until that thing is over. But I do know, really, noticed lately that for my human, there's moments where it's in sheer panic. It has nothing to do. It wants to hold on to what it thinks is safety. But I also noticed it's just basically just building a little bit of safety, a little bit of a tiny little bridge for the next step. But it sees the next step as a tiny little step.
Well, and it goes back to old references.
Yeah.
It doesn't come up with something new.
And what I feel now, and I think that's also where the panic comes from a little bit, is the next step is going to be massive. And not massive maybe in I have to do a lot of work, but massive in the terms of uh, perspective,
Shift, yeah.
where I can't go on in the old, even though the old has been more pleasant than ever. But I can't build these tiny little bridges to just another island. I need to basically move myself onto another planet. Kind of like it's time for the big shift, and it's fighting its last little. I mean, for me, it's fighting its last little fight to keep the change small, because it thinks, okay, if I make a big change, I don't know if old fears. I don't know if I'm going to survive. There's a lot of uncertainty with that, so I think that's why it flares up sometimes.
And I think the separation is going. So, and maybe just for context for everybody listening that doesn't quite know what we mean with, oh, my human or my brain or my mind, we use this interchangeably. It's really, when we say, well, you You have to pay attention to the human. It's basically make sure that the mind can come along with it, because this could be your greatest friend, but also your greatest enemy.
It has to come along,
It has
but you
to come.
can't force it.
So I think, now taking the mind or the human along on a journey where there are no more old references, when it's the only thing that works in old references or in anything that you've experienced, it's the fight or flight mode. Instincts and all of that come out of old experiences. It's so ingrained in our DNA, in each cell, and it cannot see the true divinity, expansion, freedom, being at peace, being calm, the synchronicities. All of those things are not things that are of the human mind. All of those things are things that are, once you're opening up to that part of you that is infinite, that come through that opening. So the human or the mind is desperately fighting for its existence.
And yeah, I think you're totally right. And we said this a lot as well. Uh, and it's been said in some spiritual circles, well, you can't get there from here.
Yeah.
And what is here, some refer to as physical reality, the focus of physical reality, the matrix, call it whatever you want, doesn't really matter. But it is the focused reality that we've created that we think is completely true. And even my mind is still to this day looking for spiritual formulas that I have ideas about to open the door to that other place. And it won't ever find it because it's using methods, formulas, and doors of separation and duality. So it will never get out of the cage or the matrix or this world. And what we're describing and what is it's such like a counterintuitive thing to do is you let that divinity into that smaller world, that focus, that reality. It comes in rather than the human having to go out to it, because
Yeah.
it doesn't understand how to get there. It can't traverse the dimensions involved. It can't even fathom how, what some people call synchronicity, but like the flow of divinity, how that works even. Yet we task the human with, I need to get out of this prison and it's up to you to do it. So that's the conundrum and you and me know this for years, and we have actually experienced this. We've consciously experienced our divine self and our human self and can actually connect with it consciously. And still I fall into this trap of thinking that my human needs to do it, or my human is responsible for the safety, or the human is responsible for finding the formula to get out. And it never will.
And it served us for many years, or for decades for me in my personal experience. When I started my awakening journey, I used the mind quite consciously to get myself out of old patterns. And it worked, right?
And that worked.
Like even for example, letting go of energies, of thoughts, of beliefs or whatever. You write them on a paper, you burn them in a fire, all of a sudden you feel there's a big shift. So you can facilitate it. And now at this progressed place that we find ourselves in, you sort of have to accept it for what it can do for you and know what it can't do for you. So even it is now at this point, I'm also aware that I don't have any more old patterns that I really need to mentally work at, because it's the prison within the prison. I can't work from there to get myself out of it. So I need to allow for that different freedom to come in and transform it from the inside out.
Yeah. So it's like we said before, it's really shifting from operating system from like Windows 11 to,
And even the judgment from good or bad, because it could also be easy. That's why I think a lot of people get trapped in spirituality or on their awakening journey. You go, oh, I still need to work at this. I still need to do this. And then the love and light, that's good. So you're still in the duality of labeling things, of preferring this or whatever. And you truly only come to the absolute freedom if everything just is.
Yeah, and love and light is a great method of forgiveness in a way, but it has a limit in that
But what you
old
need to
reality.
give that up, right? In order to give that up, I need to be so connected with that other part of me and trust that I know that I can let go of even the good. And our dear friend Jane Tinder, Jane, if you're listening, hi. She shared some wisdom in an article lately, where she says, I've become such a good spiritual student to let go of the old shit and put it in the fire, transform it, and all of that. And then later on, going like, oh, I dump all of that into the wisdom of my soul, but I'm going to keep the good parts. Right. And even that, at some point, you realize, put it all into the fuck it bucket, which I
She called
love.
it the fucking box.
She
Yeah.
called it the fuck it bucket.
I think that should be a product.
Yeah. So even the good ideas that the human has in the morning, oh wow, I feel so connected, I feel so inspired, I'm gonna have the most enlightened day. Fuck it. Do I need to hang on and label it? Because then I still keep the duality going.
And it's funny because the feeling because I resonated so much with that article because
Which you also give context here, which I read to you
yeah.
in the cafe having breakfast because you were in a funk.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. But I really that good spiritual student, I really resonate with that because always try to be better and more good and more. Oh, it's just another layer I can reach. But it's ultimately those are even more dangerous almost than the dark or the bad ones, because I rationalize them. I basically continue their existence even though it's another idea. And it's not to say that I can't wake up happy and have a feeling that I should be neutral and don't care about anything. No, that's why I'm staying on this planet.
That was also your biggest fear, right? That you come to a place of just
Don't care.
yeah,
Yeah.
neutrality.
Or no
Wow,
no
how
muscle tension
exciting.
in your arms and
Yeah.
like this hollow, like hello, and like this sort of wispy. No, I care actually more than ever. But it's the attachment, I guess, to what that means. I'm happy. What does that mean? Well, nothing. I'm happy. And now today I'm gonna walk this earth in the flow of, and I'll see what happens. And it might lead to a couple of phone calls. It might mean sitting on a park bench in the sun with a stupid grin on my face. But if it doesn't mean anything particularly other than this is pleasant and I'm going to continue this, I can truly allow the the work, the agenda of divinity, which usually is very, very high level, it doesn't even have a human agenda, to come in and surprise me because it knows what I want. And my human still can't fathom even 1% of what do you mean my soul knows what my soul's not on this planet. I'm on this planet. I need to deal with taxes and stupid people on the bus and etc. My soul knows. So there's still almost an anger to what do you mean my soul knows what it wants? But I'm feeling it's true, and I feel almost like this whole discussion. The last step is no step. The last step is letting go. We keep saying this to each other a lot. What's the last? What's the one thing we haven't truly done? Is let it go and completely trust that the divinity, the knowingness, the soul has the answers.
But
And lean into that. But the human is like, what do you mean? What's the guarantee? Am I safe?
and it's not something you do once. I truly believe it will be an ongoing thing, just continuously going like, no, like we don't live here anymore. I don't live here anymore. I don't live in my thought anymore. I don't live in that duality and in the push me pull me. But what's the biggest goal? The biggest goal is to be able to just be so free within yourself, and that doesn't mean sitting on a cloud playing the harp. We'll all get there eventually, I'm sure, apart from some assholes. But I think for me, even looking at people that have reached true mastery, look at Nelson Mandela, like being imprisoned, look at, other people like Eckhart Tolle, for example, like it's the isness. And at some point, it doesn't matter what you do. And even if I'm, if I'm a garbage collector or whatever, it's not about like being so free that you're not doing anything anymore, but then you're so free internally that anything that you do, even if you still have that 9 to 5 job, will be informed with that inner flow.
Yeah. And you just flow or roll into that expression that, if you decide to stay on this planet, that fits you. That that you think, oh, Eckhart Tolle is giving speeches because he loves to talk about that isness and that state of being.
He was also sitting on the bench in Toronto for 2 years, drooling on himself, just smiling because he
Here you go. There
couldn't
was a
compute.
certain, called self-care routine or madness routine,
Yeah,
but
you need to sort of land it.
yeah.
That's a huge shift, and I feel that a lot of people are afraid of it, and then they make fun of it and they
Well,
ridicule
to be
it.
very honest, I'm still afraid of it. It's still. I know I have reference. I have feelings with it. I can tune into my soul consciously. I can talk. It's so none of that is an issue. But there is this weird little voice in my head, and it's decidedly the human that feels like if I let go, if I surrender, if I let go, say it in our movie, you know, while in some respects the mind still thinks, there's a guy with a sword hanging above my head ready to basically leave
Decapitate
me
you.
in
Yeah.
two, to go, yeah, that's a great story of separation. I'm gonna do it anyway. So it's and I know it to be true. So ultimately, I feel it's very inevitable that like you say, it's something that you remind yourself of daily and sink in deeper and deeper, and just like kind of not listen to the fear anymore, because ultimately I've tried every other road. So for me, there's only one road to go, and I can see it coming for miles. Like, oh shit, it's just surrender, 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 surrender. And it's more having to deal with the human that cries murder every 5 seconds than the surrender part. But it is that step of, yeah, completely letting it go and trusting. Like, and we recently did this with a movie. We're now doing marketing for a movie, and for a long time, or for like 2 months after release, like I couldn't watch that thing. And it was only after a couple of really cool conversations that we had about abundance, which might be another episode, that we just really came, oh, it's not about the movie, it's about us. We're the product, we're the brand. But it's completely pointless if I don't believe I'm worthy. I have value by being. And I could do a clever podcast or I can do nothing. But if I don't believe I have value and wisdom, and my soul is taking care of me, this doesn't matter if I
But
don't
that's the
believe it.
exchange. That's the exchange coming from a society that is control and rule ridden, that then has certain, like goodies in store for you, or, you get a little prize, you get a little award, or you get your paycheck. So, rewards, basically. We come from that. And the true reward is always the self love and that self connection. And that's that true guidance, really. That's the reward.
Yeah.
And that feels so unattainable to many people that they don't want to trade the one system for the other. So what if I give up a little bit here? I give up a little bit of control.
Or or for me recently, that's really nice. I value myself. I love myself. You know, I see the human, but is trust and value going to pay my taxes? So the human is like, I got you, checkmate. But it's almost the impatience to see what happens if you really truly do that.
So, again, the one question that comes up is, was the decision to put the documentary out for free a good mental idea, or was that informed by soul?
Totally the latter.
So,
But my human freaked out, and there's
well,
still
yeah,
moments
yeah,
in
of
that
course.
that I wake up and go, "What the fuck have we done? How am I gonna pay for my rent?" Right? It's just like,
So now you've given up to the biggest master, the soul,
yeah, I
right?
did it anyway, basically.
Yeah, you said, okay, fuck it. And then you find yourself in the same, okay, but now how do I earn money? Yeah.
And I talked to you about this a couple of days ago. Like the human has, if I don't provide a service or make a product, how can I get money? How can my value be rewarded? And it's always something outside of me that I have to gift to. So there's separation, and I have to give something to the other side of separation, and then from that side, something comes back to me.
It's exchange, yeah.
Yeah. So it's completely the old system, and it's unsustainable. I actually also don't want to sustain it, but it's. I love the analogy of the you get to this place, and your soul and your wisdom and your divinity is warming up the soup, the soup of who you really are, completely. And then 5 seconds after you put the gas in, you put your pinky in, and you go like, oh, it's still cold, it's not working. No, just let it heat up, right? So I know
Trust the
that's
process.
yes, and I know all of this, and still my human is just like, what if it doesn't work? What do I do next month? And what if it doesn't work? So it's still that ingrained survival thing that you have to, you know, bet the house on red to you have to really trust this.
And yet you do, because you keep betting the house on red.
No, I do.
And
But
that's
it's
the
out
funny
of
part, right?
yeah.
Like it's not, you're not even counter creating bullshit. You're not even going like, okay, now I'm gonna get the stupid job where I really have to work hard, blood, sweat, and tears. You do trust it. It's just that the mind freaks out.
Yeah.
And you want the mind to not freak out over something that it doesn't have any other
Yeah, but
relevance.
it just wants the result. It wants a result, and it wants to say,
course.
here's 50 million in your bank
Yeah.
account, have fun. And it's like, yeah, but you want it in like the next experience I want to have in the new. I don't want to have the old experience with a little bit of spit and shine polish,
Yeah.
because
Well, again, I'm gonna exchange a little bit of control for a little bit of divinity. No.
then if you ask me, like, I'd rather go through a couple of sleepless nights going, what the fuck is happening, knowing a big change is coming, than now counter creating again, which that road I've also traveled a lot. So yeah, it's
Yeah, so how do I get it here, right? I think that's the big question. And when is it coming? So I can trust a little bit, and then at some point you just go like, okay, I'm running out of air. Like I can hold my breath a little bit, and then I have to inhale. And being at that point where you can just totally relax and just breathe in and breathe out and just lean into it. So we'll keep you posted, dear listener. Keep you posted on how it's going for us. But we wanted to discuss this to just also, make this really relatable, that will probably not go away. The worry for survival, or the worry for how will this work out, because the human mind has to come along.
and I think also the ending this podcast with a clear formula, like, we've gone through this is how you do it. Well, no. It's your journey. It's very
I'd probably
individual.
whack you over the head if you now came up with, and the solution to all of this has always been.
Yeah, spin around 3 times, burn this candle, pray to no. It's like, how do you allow? You allow.
Get out of your way.
Get out of your way. And for everybody, that's individual. And for me, that's walking or going to the gym. And actually, that last part has completely changed around, because even that now feels like, I don't want to work at it. So walking in nature, okay. So it's raining for 3 days now. Shit. So the only thing I can do
Welcome to Holland.
is sort of make a cup of tea and just quiet my mind.
And then you feel the resistance initially. Yeah.
And maybe I need to feel the resistance 10,000 more times for my tenacious ass to go, okay, so now I've traversed this last alleyway for 1,000,000 times as well, to know, okay, this is not yielding me the result. So let's just let that one go too.
Yeah.
We'll let you guys know. And as usual, if you guys have any comments, just leave them in the under the podcast section, or if you find it on YouTube, and join the discussion. We'd love to hear from you guys.
Yeah, you can write into podcast@rudeawakening-film.com. You can also, of course, watch the documentary for free, the full version on YouTube, which basically is through our website, rudeawakening-film.com. But you could also treat yourself to the bonus pack if you really want to dive in a little bit deeper into all of the wisdom that's shared in the uncut interviews, and a lot of other bonus material. And above all, please share. We're now reaching for the 100,000 views. It's pretty close, but we do need all of your help to spread the word, spread the light, spread the wisdom, and share it.
And follow your impulse. If you know somebody that has their own podcast, or you know somebody personally that has that is an influencer, or that might really love this subject matter, just don't think about it too much. Just share it, and you'll know if it lands or not. But I'd love for everybody to just share it far and wide.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll hear you again next week.
Bye.
Bye.